Hey everyone, I am Marcy Newman, your Heart Shift coach, and I'm here as promised to talk about that particular post that was made of the 6 different types of courage. And I asked for your thoughts about it, and I was very pleased that some of you had some very definitive thoughts about that particular post. When I asked you how many of you believe that this is about self-love, and if so, where is it speaking to self-love? So let me just give a quick review. The 6 different types of courage that were posted were physical, which was described as you just keep going. You have this incredible resiliency and balance and high level of awareness. Number 2, social courage. And that is the courage to be yourself, unapologetically. The 3rd type of courage that it spoke of was moral courage, doing the right thing, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. The 4th type of courage was emotional courage, feeling all of your feelings and emotions without guilt or without attachment. The 5th was intellectual courage, and that was about having courage to learn and to unlearn and to relearn with an open and flexible mind. And the 6th, as it was listed, was spiritual courage. Courage to live with purpose and meaning through a very heart-centered approach towards all of life and yourself. So before I give my complete answer, I want to talk about some of these aspects of courage that I think are really very, very important, clearly, but also that I want to make certain that we are distinguishing how self-love shows up. So, self-love, as you know, is always going to take you out of your comfort zone. So when the aspect of moral courage came up in this post, and it was an encouragement of doing the right thing, even though it was uncomfortable or unpopular. What came up for me and what I wanted to discuss with you is that self-love is always going to be uncomfortable, and self-love is always going to be unpopular. Always. And the reason for that is that we're so programmed not to love ourselves. We're programmed to follow the conditioning and the program that came from childhood experiences. Those experiences were molded because other people had expectations of us that were to please them and not necessarily to take into account what our needs were. And that's where the programming, you might say, actually goes astray. So I don't want there to be any confusion about when discomfort or being unpopular comes up. In other words, to label it as moral courage, okay, is something that is sort of a limited view of what self-love asks of you. The physical courage, that's a courage where it's described here, again, as being, able and willing to go forwards, regardless of what has happened. And of course, we have all experienced and definitely had that requirement placed upon us in many, many different ways. However, I also want you to know that it may not be present during a circumstance that calls for self-love. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, what could those circumstances be? Those are circumstances where we don't keep going. Sounds strange? It's where we know that we are meant to back up a bit, where we are meant to take an accounting of everything that we are experiencing. Sometimes it requires that we're quiet, that we go into the silence and we connect with the divinity within us. It's only in that silence where we can hear the messages of our higher self, of, our guides, guardians, teachers, healers, in a way where we can really gain some clarity about those. So the other aspect is social courage, and that is described as the courage to be yourself. Well, I want to touch into that because the truth of the matter is that being yourself, being your authentic self, is the most natural aspect of you, which means that what you're actually learning to do is to be that full expression of you and to own and accept all of what you are. So does this take courage? In truth, it doesn't take courage to love yourself, to own who you are, to accept yourself. However, it indeed may take courage to express that. And again, we come back to this conditioning that we're so accustomed to that keeps us very small and limited. We have this fear about expressing ourselves because we're afraid that we won't be acceptable or loved by another. We might even be ostracized or abandoned. And so I wanted to differentiate that. The emotional courage is being willing to feel all your feels, being willing to accept your emotions, and to do so guiltlessly or without attachment. I particularly want to bring this up because sometimes self-love is, how do I say this? Sometimes self-love is sitting with the attachments. Sometimes self-love is sitting with the guilt. And that's where the courage is necessary. So I think very often we're ready to dismiss guilt or dismiss an attachment to something or someone without sitting in the energy and just having expectations of ourselves to just be able to let it go. And that's untrue. And it's unkind. It's unkind for you to believe that about yourself, because you will find that when you're not able to do that, that you'll perhaps start beating yourself up or wondering what's wrong with you, when indeed there isn't anything wrong at all. But instead, in sitting with that guilt or those attachments that you have, you may be loving yourself for the first time ever. So I don't want you to think for a moment that you are not courageous if you haven't let those go yet. Okay? This is very important. The next one, the intellectual courage. The courage to unlearn. The courage to learn something new, to relearn, to be open and flexible. Absolutely, in every way, all of those are connected to self-love. On the other hand, I also want you to know that self-love may be present when you feel that it's more loving of self to not learn something new. In other words, what I'm trying to say is sometimes we're being pulled to change our belief based on a popular belief at the time, or sort of acquiesce our inner information for somebody else's belief. And so what I'm pulling your attention to is that you have an intuitive quality to you that will tell you when it's time to learn, to unlearn, relearn. And that always takes flexibility. What I want you to really hone in on is to understand that there are times where your belief that's coming from the core of your being is what is going to require your courage, because you may be going against the mass, the thought that the general population has. So again, there are some times what you know already inside of you is everything that you need to know. So these words of learn, unlearn, relearn, sometimes they're just words, but sometimes they can confuse us into following this path because we believe that that's where we're meant to go. And if we don't, that means that we're inflexible. There are aspects of my belief system, for instance, where I had to follow it blindly because I knew so deep in the core of my being that it was my truth and I needed to follow it. And you have this too. And so I don't want you to get caught up believing that you constantly need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. The one thing you constantly need to do is to tune in. To tune in and to know what are the energies that are authentic to you, that will guide you and support you in manifesting the life that you are yearning for and the life that you deserve to live. Which brings us to the spiritual courage. And that is where you recognize that you are living your purpose and that you're living a heart-centered life, a heart-centered approach to everything. First and foremost, this is all about self-love. Your spiritual journey is your self-love journey. They're one and the same. And what we are seeking is for when the outside you and the inside you come together and form this perfect bond where you're not living even parallel lives. You're living one life. One life that is a full expression of the truth of all that you are. One life as the true you. And so in answer to my own question, where does self-love come into all of these? Is self-love part of all of these different types of courage? First, I'm going to say there is only one energy of courage. It has a vibrational frequency all its own. I want you to accept my invitation to you to become oriented to the energy of courage. Get to be familiar with how it feels and how it inspires you to go forwards. It has a particular feel to that energy frequency. And secondly, I want to say that courage is expressed in many different ways, okay? And in many other ways that are even not discussed here. So all of you who answered that you believe that self-love was present in all of these, you're 100% correct. You cannot experience courage without it being an expression of self-love. This is what is so amazing. It's a marriage made in heaven. And so it's why you'll always hear me say that we must cultivate the courage to create a self-love lifestyle. Because courage is the energy that will create the blueprint for its own expression as self-love. So that's it for now. Thank you to each of you who did share your opinion, and for all of you, of course, who are here in self-love and heart shifts, and how much I enjoy being here with you. And we're on this journey together, aren't we? So please share your experiences, share your stories, and share your successes. So much love to you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, make sure that you check out HeartShift-TV and go to the playlist and check out my other videos on self-love, on manifestation, all kinds of things, because self-love encompasses every aspect of your life because it's your journey. Okay, bye-bye now.